he's like, you know what should really scare you? He's like, spinach. Where they're like, you just said that mushroom was poisonous, that I shouldn't eat that. He goes, yeah, but somebody eats that once, then they die. Nobody's going to eat that mushroom again. But he goes, spinach, you'll constantly eat that. You won't see the symptoms right away, but over time, it can cause havoc on your body. As a former vegan, I look back, I'm like, I'm blending kale, spinach, banana, like smoothies in the morning, and I'm just making it even worse because it's liquid form at this point, and I'm just gunning it down. And that's why I ran into a bunch of health issues. And like you said, nobody really talks about this. Nobody knows it. When you say, hey, like, I don't eat spinach because I think it's unhealthy, people look at you like you got 3 heads.
Welcome to Meat Matters with Jenny Mitich, your go-to podcast for all things related to animal-based lifestyles and optimizing your metabolic health. Today is a special bonus episode. I was recently interviewed on the Primal Foundations podcast, and I wanted to share this interview with you. I first met Tony at a Chicagoland meetup that was organized by the wonderful Karen Miles, and his podcast focuses on strength, nutrition, movement, and recovery. I'll be sure to put a link to the Primal Foundations podcast in the show notes so that you can get subscribed. Tony does amazing work, and you're definitely going to want to tune into his podcast. So with that, let's dive into this special bonus episode with Tony from Primal Foundations.
Jenny, welcome to the Primal Foundations podcast.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
It's great to see you again. The last time we spoke was at the Healing for Humanity event with Carrie Mann, and we had Dr. Kiltz amongst many other people and guests, Tony Hampton. But how did you feel about that whole meetup and getting to see some of the clips of the hopefully upcoming documentary?
Oh man, I loved it. I love meetups in general. The first time you and I met was at one of Karen Miles's meetups in Chicago. Mm-hmm. That was awesome. She's always putting stuff together. So it's just nice to be able to go and see people in your area that are also, following carnivore. And I loved seeing the clips from Healing Humanity. That's going to be a game changer when it's released, I think.
Yeah, I think we get really caught up in, documentaries, especially the very, very well done ones, right? They have the charts, the graphs, the stories, the people, and the editing. And depending on what you watch, you could go one way or the other. I went down the road of being 2 years vegan a long time ago because of I saw Forks Over Knives, and I was like, oh, like this seems right to me. Okay. And just took my health for a turn. And then, there's really nothing, like you said, there's nothing really for carnivore. There's some ketogenic things out there, but I'm excited for this. I think this one is, if this gets into the movie theaters, I'm like buying it out and I'm inviting everybody.
Agreed. The cool thing with Carrie is he is just so passionate about carnivore because of the just like extreme positive changes that he's seen in his mental and physical health. So he puts that passion into the documentary as well. And then his I guess cinematographer, the guy that's filming it, Adam, he was in still photography. He did a lot of photography and then learned how to shoot video and has done, I couldn't tell, like it's shot beautifully. Yeah. So his story was really riveting too. So it was really nice to be able to see some clips and to hear all of the testimonials from Carrie's family and from, Dr. Kiltz, Dr. Wiedemann, Dr. Tony Hampton. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was a great event. I can't wait to see that whole bunch of people again. And we were talking kind of off camera a little bit, like how carnivores gain popularity over the years. There's more and more people that come into it, especially in this past year. People have just asking me about it. How do you explain carnivore diet to somebody who's unfamiliar to it? And, how does that compare to more of like a widely known keto diet?
It's a really good question. I've also noticed an uptick in awareness on carnivore. I was at REI getting like a sweatshirt or something, and the cash register lady was like, "Oh yeah, carnivore. I know what that is. My cousin's doing it." So a lot more people are doing it. I really think we're coming to a point where it's gonna be like blowing up, probably this year, like in popularity. So when people ask me about it, it's really simple. Honestly, it's just all I eat is meat and animal products. And they'll be like, no meat? I'm like, no, all meat, only meat. No vegetables, no fruits. I'm like, no, that's all I eat. And then, I just talk about how it's kind of like just the lowest carb, ketogenic diet that you can do. And a lot of people use it as an elimination diet. So if you're suffering from some really hardcore metabolic issues, it could be a game changer for you. But also if you just want to come to it to lose some weight, it's really helpful for that too. So that's kind of where I start. And then of course, I have my YouTube channel. So I've been working on building a playlist of beginner carnivore videos for the past year. I think I've got about 40 now. And I have a few like complete in-depth guide videos that help people to get started, like prepping your kitchen, figuring out your whys, why you're doing it in the first place, and then getting everything prepared. And then going into, your first month on carnivore, because the first month on carnivore is the most difficult. That's when people can run into keto flu symptoms, especially if they're coming from eating a lot of carbs, 200, 300, 400 grams a day plus, talking about electrolytes and ways that you can avoid or mitigate the worst of those symptoms. And then once you're through that first month, typically it's smooth sailing. So I just try to condense that as much as possible. And I only share all that stuff if they ask. I'm not just like, evangelizing about carnivore. Oh my God, you need to do this, because I don't want to turn people off. But if they ask, I'll definitely give them the info they need.
Yeah, there's a lot of people going to carnivore. Again, you mentioned some of the reasons: weight loss, healing a prolonged health issue, and people connect with stories, just like kind of healing with humanity. That's like the premise, is we're just telling the stories, and the listeners, I know, are going to be very excited to hear yours. What inspired you to adopt a carnivore diet, and how has that transformed your health and lifestyle?
Yeah. So I have twins. They're now 3. You may hear them screaming in the background occasionally because they're trying to go down for a nap. But I gained 70 pounds when I was pregnant with them. And when I got pregnant, I was already a bit overweight. So I was not happy. And after they were born, I, did the standard, low fat, lots of fruits and vegetables. I was following Noom. It's this app that's like 1,200 calories, low fat, lots of carbs, red meat's bad. And I lost, 21 pounds over a year, but that was really, really slow. I had a lot of weight still to lose. I was like 195 pounds. So my husband, he was the one that got me started on carnivore, actually. He had found Dr. Ken Berry on YouTube and had started watching his videos that summer before we started. And he was like, hey, I really want to try this. My husband had lost 130 pounds using keto, and he wanted to kind of take it to the next level. And I was just like, you're insane. How can you get all of the vitamins and minerals you need just eating meat? The standard concerns. But I did watch the videos with him. I ended up watching the videos with him and did a little bit of my own exploring over the next 6 months. I got a continuous glucose monitor in September of that year and had seen that my glucose was not, maybe moving towards pre-diabetic, because I was eating so much fruit. Really no ultra processed foods, but just a lot of fruit. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. So then it got to the point where I had only lost 21 pounds. I was super frustrated. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give carnivore a shot. So I'm going to do it for 30 days. I'm going to see what's going to happen to my glucose levels on a carnivore diet. That'll be the experiment. And that's it, 30 days. Just give it a shot. So I actually started the carnivore diet before my husband, which is so funny because he was the one that wanted to do it first. So I started it on December 27th, 2022, right? Yeah, 2022. And I lost 8 pounds my first month. I dropped my glucose from like 100 down to 80 as my average. And I didn't feel very good. I had horrible keto flu, which I now know was also a mix of oxalate dumping, because I had been eating so many high oxalate fruits and vegetables that I thought were healthy. So that, like 4 to 6 weeks of keto flu. But the weight loss and the drastic shift in my glucose numbers was enough to keep me going. So I committed to another 30 days. Only lost 2 pounds my second month because I started including dairy again. Cut the dairy, did it another 30 days. And by the end of that 90-day period, I'd lost 15.5 pounds. And my glucose had stabilized in the low 80s. So I was just hooked. And I've been on it ever since, now over 2 years.
Yeah. And And a lot of people do come to this diet as a weight loss. I'm going to do carnivore to weight loss, but how did you feel?
Oh, I mean, I felt so much better. So I've had mental health issues since I was like 13, depression, anxiety, and things like that. And as I'd gotten older, it'd gotten a little bit better. I was able to deal with it better than I was when I was younger, but it almost completely went away. That's probably the most amazing thing that I wasn't really expecting. I lost 50 pounds. Energy wise, night and day, night and day.
Yeah.
With these guys, they are balls of energy. And I turned 41 in a couple of weeks, so I'm not a young mom. I need help, and doing carnivore has been amazing for me energy wise. Yeah, that was really helpful. I noticed a lot of improvements in oral health. I used to have bleeding gums, and I'd have to use a breath mint often. I felt like I did, and I no longer need to. My gums no longer bleed. Um, just a lot of really unexpected benefits that I didn't know were going to happen, but that did.
Yeah. The I hear that a lot too of, I used to get cavities a lot. Every time I would go to the doctor, I'd have a cavity or something going on. And, for myself, I'm getting, I mean, I have an electric toothbrush now. I don't know if that changes the game, but, every time I go into the dentist, they're like, oh, it's all good. It's actually better than it was X amount of years ago. I was like, oh, awesome. So I do think there is something to it. And plus other benefits. Yes, you want to, lose weight. We're a little vain. We want to look good. I mean, that's totally fine. But just the energy, the mental clarity, and the simplicity of carnivore is very attractive to people as well. And plus, you mentioned that, like, I saw on your YouTube banner, you have a picture from 2 years ago to now. Like, what a difference. Just in your, it says only a face picture, but just in
Yeah.
your face.
Yeah, I had gone back. That the one from 2 years ago was from my 30-day update video.
Hmm.
And I was probably 186 pounds there, but just the inflammation in my face
Yeah.
compared to that, the second shot was December of 2024, and I was like 150 pounds, and just the clarity and everything. That was crazy. I had to make a post because I was like, oh my God, look at this. And I've had a few people on that picture be like, oh, you got plastic surgery or fillers. I'm like, no. No, I'm healthier. That's all,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know. I put no filters on it either because I hate it when people do that.
yeah.
I don't want you to see filtered. I want you to see what it was on the video. That's it. And it's a stark difference for sure. I think an air fryer is a required kitchen tool for anybody following a carnivore diet or a low carb way of eating. The air fryer that I have in my kitchen is the Tasty. Tasty air fryer is a game changer. Not only does it go much higher in temperature than any other air fryer on the market, going up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, but it also has a built-in temperature probe so you can get your meat cooked to the exact temperature you want every single time. Its sleek design is beautiful on your countertop, and it's also really easy to clean. Tasty just upgraded their basket to have a ceramic coating that is, as always, BPA and PFOA free. So you can rest easy knowing that you're not putting tons of toxic chemicals into your food when you are cooking it. Right now, you can save $30 on your new Tasty air fryer by heading over to tasty.net/Jenny Mitich and using code Jenny30 at checkout. Link and code is in the show notes.
You mentioned some things that are happening when people get on to carnivore. For those interested in transitioning to carnivore diet, what essential steps or resources would you recommend to ensure that successful start?
Sure. I do think there's a little bit of prep work that needs to go into it. I did not do these prep work items and I suffered for it. So I think it's really important to first figure out why you're doing it in the first place. So for me, my whys are my family, my boys. I want to age gracefully. I'd really like to do like crazy physical things in my 80s and 90s, like climb a mountain or just weird, crazy stuff. And then I also, want to look good. I came to this for weight loss. But I don't think that can be your only why. If you're coming to carnivore just to lose weight, that's not going to be enough of a motivator. So try to figure out, why are you doing this in the first place? And then write that why down on a Post-it or put it on your phone, like on your banner or something, whatever, so that you can see it every single day because you need to keep it fresh in your mind. Once you figure out your whys, then you need to start prepping your kitchen. Because if you have a bunch of non-carnivore foods laying around, I can tell you it will be difficult. Not impossible. There's some people that can do it, but I think it's better to just try to get rid of all that non-carnivore food. So pastas, breads, desserts, cereals, anything that fruit, vegetables, things like that. You don't have to throw it away. You could put it in a box, put it out in your garage. You could donate it. You could give it away, whatever. And this only works, if either you're living alone or if you're living with somebody that is also doing it along with you. There are people, that have people in their household that are not also going to be doing it. So that can be difficult. But if that's the case where you can't get rid of everything, I would say at least try to get rid of the things that are a weakness for you. So like for me, that would be Cinnamon Toast Crunch and Oreos. I would not be able to have those in the house and do carnivore. So I'd get those out. Then after you do that, you kind of have to restock your shelves, right? You got to have some food. You don't know how many people I've talked to that start carnivore and then they're like, oh, I have no food, So I have a free grocery list for anybody that wants it. They can, follow me over on Instagram or send me an email and I'll get it to them. Of all the different foods that you can get a week's worth of food, get some ground beef, some eggs, some butter, pork chops are good, chicken, whatever meat you enjoy, buy some. And then I do think it's a good idea to do a little bit of meal prep. Hard boil a dozen eggs and have them in your fridge. Make a pot roast or something. Just have something on hand because your hunger cues are going to be a bit wacky the first month as you're learning your true hunger cues. And you're going to want to have some food on hand that you can eat right away. After that, I think you'd be pretty much ready to go. I do think you need to have some electrolytes on hand. Whatever brand, works for you, just make sure that they don't have a bunch of sugar and things like that. You really just want the minerals. So sodium, potassium, magnesium at minimum. I use Element. They're raw and flavored are great. There's a bunch of other brands out there that you can do. Figure out which one works best for you and have some on hand. Don't wait. Do that before you start. Because like for me, man, day 2 was terrible. And if I didn't have electrolytes on hand, I just had to do salt and then I ordered the electrolytes. So make sure you have them beforehand. Then really it's just kind of like picking when to start. I would not start carnivore if you're going to go cold turkey into it. I wouldn't start it like before a big event or if you have like a work trip planned, or anything like that. I would pick, a month where you have some light schedules going on, because you don't know what's going to happen. Some people don't have any keto flu and some people it's bad. So you kind of have to plan around that. And then there's, if you don't want to go cold turkey into carnivore, you could also just gradually reduce your carbs. I think starting by eating meat, fruit, and vegetables, cutting all of the processed, refined carbs out of your diet and doing that for a few weeks to let your body kind of get used to that and then drop the fruit slowly and then drop the vegetables. That can be a way for people to ease onto carnivore where it's not as much of a shock to your system. So you kind of have to figure out which way works best for you and then get started.
Yeah, it's also, it's a personality thing. There's some people that are like, I need to go all in 2 feet. Yeah. I need to jump into the pool. I got a cannonball in there and get wet real quick, or, I'm going to ease my way into it. And then for some people, honestly, easing their way into it is, I would say, the better situation for most, because if you are transitioning from just standard American diet, processed food, you might have to do that. And like you even said it, just getting unprocessed, just real whole foods in your diet, plus have increasing animal proteins and fat, you're going to feel better. Just that's step 1, right? Yeah. And then slowly decreasing. And you mentioned some things about oxalate dumpings. What are some signs and symptoms that you might be experiencing oxalate dumping?
Yeah. So I had no idea what oxalates were until like a year after I started carnivore. The best book to read on that is Toxic Superfoods by Dr. Sally Norton. Doctor? Is she a doctor? By Sally Norton.
Yeah.
Wonderful book. That's where I learned about it. So oxalates are plant toxins. So plants don't want to be eaten. They have defense mechanisms, plant chemicals, phytochemicals, things like that. And an oxalate is basically just kind of like a crystalline structure that is in some fruits and vegetables. Sometimes it can be like in the younger version of the fruit or vegetable as opposed to the older. In her book, she has a whole list of everything you can avoid, but the highest oxalate items would be spinach, kiwi, raspberries, dark chocolate, sweet potatoes. It's a big one. Tea, black and green tea. So a good way that you can know if you're oxalate dumping is if you start carnivore, you go cold turkey, and after like 2 or 3 weeks, you're still experiencing what you would think are keto flu symptoms. So extreme fatigue, diarrhea, just feeling out of it. I would say then perhaps you're oxalate dumping. And you can check that by brewing yourself a cup of black or green tea and drinking it. And then within 30 minutes, if you start feeling better, then you're oxalate dumping. And if that's the case, then I would think it might be a good idea to add back in some fruits and vegetables to slow the oxalate dumping process. The thing about oxalate dumping is there's not a ton of information about it out there. Sally did a really great job in researching it, but she had to bring together like so many different outside sources and all of this stuff together to try to get a cohesive idea of like what you should do. So that's why I think the gradual reduction of carbs is a good idea for somebody that's like making like spinach smoothies and eating a sweet potato every day. And like I was eating dark chocolate every night. I had kiwis every day, sweet potato every day, raspberries every day. I had so many high oxalate foods. That's why I suffered. So yeah, I think that's something to pay attention to and something that a lot of people don't really know about, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had Bill Schindler on the podcast, and he talks, or he has the book, Eat Like a Human. He has the Modern Stone Age Kitchen. And one big thing is he took like this group of students on some type of like, just like a foraging event or something. And some people were talking about a mushroom, and they're like, he's like, you know what's really scary you? He's like, spinach. They're like, you just said that mushroom was poisonous, that I shouldn't eat that. He goes, yeah, but somebody eats that once, then they die. Nobody's going to eat that mushroom again. But he goes, spinach. He goes, you'll constantly eat that. You won't see the symptoms right away, but over time, it can like cause havoc on your body. And you get those high oxalates from the spinach, from the kale. As a former vegan, I look back, I'm blending kale, spinach, banana, like smoothies in the morning. And I'm just making it even worse because it's liquid form at this point. And I'm just gunning it down. And that's why I ran into a bunch of health issues. And like you said, nobody really talks about this. Nobody knows it. When you say, hey, like I don't eat spinach because I think it's unhealthy, people look at you like you got 3 heads, so.
Totally. It's so funny. I think it was Chris Hemsworth was doing spinach smoothies like every morning, and he had to stop because he was poisoning himself. And he's a big dude. He's like 6'3", 6'4", or something like that. But like a smaller person, like a 5-foot tall woman, you can actually die from eating too many oxalates. If she was eating the same spinach smoothies as Chris Hemsworth 3 days in a row, she could die from oxalate toxicity. Yeah. And it's just so funny because spinach is like touted as a superfood, oh, it's so good for you, blah. It's like, oh my God, I won't touch spinach with a 10-foot pole now, And actually, it's funny. Kale is actually not very high oxalate. Mm-hmm. I thought it was. But then reading Sally's book, she's like, no, actually, kale is okay. It's the spinach. So I was like, I always thought it was the kale. Craziness, man. But when you're doing carnivore, you don't eat any plants. So you're like, I get that all out of my diet.
Every time my coworkers look at me, they're like, dude, do you have a vegetable? I go, I try to avoid vegetables if I can. And for me, at least, like it's a garnish, if anything. Like like, nobody's taking my carnivore card away, but I like jalapenos sometimes.
Yeah, they're
Like
so good.
I like spicy. I like spicy. So a
Yeah,
garnish is one thing, but as a main food group, I just tell my coworkers, like, I try to avoid vegetables if I can.
for sure.
Um,
I do a keto cheat meal once a month. So we'll do like Brussels sprouts smothered in cheese and bacon or asparagus. I try to keep to the low oxalate vegetables. I love
yeah.
a salad. I would eat a salad every day. I love salads, but I just don't feel my best when I do that. So I do it once a month, and that seems to work well for me. But
Yeah.
for some people, they wouldn't be able to do that. So
That's something too that some people might not know, that if you are going to have a food that's either low, mid oxalates or whatever, if you cook it with a cream sauce or actually have a dairy with it, the oxalates will bind to that and you're able to pass through your body more effectively and not get stored up as much. So if you are going to have like a spinach or anything, more than likely, if you have it with the cream sauce, it'll lower not necessarily the oxalates, but how many oxalates stay into your system.
interesting. I did not know that. That's a really great tip.
While we're on the topic of food, meal planning and prepping, I seen your "What do I eat in a week" videos, which are awesome. You have a fantastic, I told you off air, a fantastic YouTube channel. You showcase daily meals. How do you keep a variety in your diet, and any tips for those struggling with meal ideas?
So I'm really boring. I eat beef, butter, bacon, and eggs 90% of the time. Um, for meal prep, I always have a dozen eggs hard boiled in the fridge. I just today was filming some videos for YouTube. I did a pork tenderloin that I put ground beef and cream cheese. Like I made kind of like a base of that, put that in there with some more cheese and then rolled it up and baked it. That was enough for dinner, and now we've got some left over. Chicken is so easy to meal prep. Wings, I love doing wings, probably once a month, but like bone in, skin on thighs or drummies are so easy to just cook a whole bunch of them and then have them in the fridge to eat. I tend to not need a lot of variety, but my husband does. He likes a little bit more variety. So we've been coming up with recipes the past couple of years that we've been doing YouTube, and a lot of my viewers need variety too. So I have a beef stroganoff that's really good. I like to do like taco dishes of some kind, a
Yeah.
carnivore taco or a taco ball. There's lots of really great ways you can add some variety into your diet. But for me, I eat like eggs and bacon or eggs and sausage every morning. And then for dinner, I only eat twice a day. I'll do like a pound of ground beef with some butter on it or something, or I'll do like a 16 to 24 ounce ribeye, or I'll do like 2 pounds of chicken wings. And that's enough for me.
Yeah.
I'm very boring, but it works. It works. That's one of the beautiful things about carnivores. I don't have to think too much about food, and I'm only eating when I'm truly hungry. So I could eat the same thing days in a row, but because I'm actually hungry, every single time I eat it, I'm like, oh, this is so good,
Yeah, right. I look back at I was like, I used to tell myself this, I'm basically doing hide and go seek with the food. Like I would go into the kitchen, this is back in just regular standard American diet. Even when I was vegan, I would just like I'll constantly be opening cabinets and looking for stuff. Like I'm not even hungry. What am I doing? Like I don't think I'm hungry, but I am. I'm like looking, I'm in the fridge, I'm in the cabinets, I'm in the pantry all day. I'm going in and out of the kitchen. Now I'm like, I ate earlier today. I had 2 pounds of ground beef. I'm set. I'm good for the day. I don't need to eat. I can go about my life. I won't even eat till tomorrow. And again, I am boring like you a little bit. That's fine.
That's okay.
It's ground beef, it's eggs,
Yeah.
it's butter. It's cold. I mean, we're pretty local to each other. It's cold right now, but in the summer, I love grilling. I like to go
Yeah.
outside, and that's when I do my steaks. I really get into steaks. Maybe people don't like this next comment. I don't like cooking with an air fryer.
Oh no, I love cooking with the air fryer. I do my steaks in the air fryer in the winter. I am not about to go outside.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everybody talks about the air fryer. They love it. I bought one. Did I do it wrong? Maybe. I have no idea, but I
It
tried
takes some practice.
I
It
tried the
does.
air fryer. I did a couple steaks in there. I did the wing flats in there. It was okay. It was all right. But I was
Yeah.
like, I actually just like, I ended up like returning it. I was like,
What air fryer did you get?
I forget. It was like a Ninja or something. I
Yeah,
don't know.
because some of the one that I have is the Tasty, and it goes up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit, and most air
Hmm.
fryers only go up to like 400 or 420, and
Okay.
that's where I get the crispiness from. So like on my chicken wings, I
Mm,
cook them at 420 for 18 to 20 minutes, and they are crispy as heck. So
interesting.
it might just be, practicing a little more, finding the one that has higher temp.
Yeah, I might have to go the route, because again, I really don't even have steaks during the winter because I'm like, I'm not going all the way upstairs because we have like a little rooftop. I'm
Yeah.
not going up there
It's
and
too
then
cold.
off the lakefront, just freezing,
Yeah. We're both in the Chicagoland area, and it's
Yeah.
bitter cold right now. February is the worst.
And with your meals, I think you just did a post the other day. I love this phrase. I use it all the time. Like, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. Do you feel, that a lot of people think it has to be, if you're doing carnivore, everything must be like the highest of quality. It's got to be grass fed, grass finished. It must be pasture raised. It must be this, must be that.
Yeah. I That's a great question. I just did a post about this yesterday. So I went to Jewel, that's our local grocery store, and I found this Oscar Mayer bacon was on sale. It was usually $10.99 a pound. It was 99 cents a pound. I don't know why. There were only 3 left. I scooped them all up. Created a post about, look at all this cheap meat that I got. And I had a few commenters be like, oh my God, that's so full of garbage. I would never buy that bacon, blah. I read the ingredients label. And there's nothing bad on the back of that label. The only thing that's in it is just stuff that would be used to cure bacon. If you're eating cured bacon, that's what's going to be in it. 0 carbs. I think a lot of people get bogged down by the dogmatic thoughts of it has to be grass-fed, grass-finished, everything, no toxins, blah. And it's like, no, I eat conventionally raised meat 90% of the time.
Yeah.
90% of the time. I get my meat from Jewel or Costco. I'll get a whole ribeye. I'll cut that up myself, but it's conventionally raised choice meat. I do some grass-fed, grass-finished. I'll do some American Wagyu. I have a ranch in Missouri that I'll get my ground beef from because it's so good. But like in general, no. And you can see profound health improvements eating conventionally raised meat, including processed meats. Everyone thinks, oh, processed meats are so bad. No, no, they're not that bad. Of course, there's going to be some that are. Like there's this brand of bacon that's like cinnamon toast crunch sprinkled bacon.
I took a picture of it the other day. I was going to
Yes.
post it.
Yes, don't buy that. Okay. But like Oscar Mayer bacon, normal bacon, that's fine. We use Bob Evans sausage in the roll, and there's 0 carbs, no corn syrup. It's very hard to find breakfast sausage that doesn't have corn syrup in it, but it does have MSG in it. And some people are very sensitive to MSG. We are not. We eat that stuff 5 days a week. And our metabolic health has improved across the board. And I do blood tests, arterial scans, DEXA scans, continuous glucose monitoring, continuous ketone monitoring, like every test you can possibly get, I get it done and I share it on my YouTube channel. So you can see that eating that sausage isn't killing me. You know what I mean? So I think it's all about getting what you can afford, getting what you prefer to eat, because if you don't like the taste, you're not going to eat it. And if you can afford grass-fed, grass-finished everything, and that is what you prefer to eat, that's okay too. There are marginal health benefits to eating the grass-fed, grass-finished for sure. Less omega-6s for sure in the ruminants, but it's marginal. It's
Yeah.
marginal. And if you're coming from a standard American diet, just cutting out all the crap and eating conventionally raised meat is going to do just a night and day difference. So I think that is something that as a community, we need to communicate a little bit more, because I still get comments all the time like, oh, you're not doing it pure enough. And I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah, it just gets so like dogmatic within carnivore.
Yeah.
It's lion diet or nothing. I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Oh
I think,
God. On
yeah,
TikTok, I've gotten comments where like, you can't use garlic powder, or you're using pepperoni. That's not carnivore. People get violently angry about it. I'm like, Jesus, you guys.
Yeah.
I'm down. If you don't want to use it, that's fine. And I'll give like a nuanced response. And it's like they don't even watch it because they don't,
Yeah,
you
you're not
know.
you do more than I would. I wouldn't even be like sometimes I like do a steak emo like anytime like somebody says something about somebody just did something like kids watch this. I can't believe you whatever and I like this has to stop and I put like a steak emoji with like a muscle. I'm like thanks for commenting. Like that's
See,
all I
but
leave.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I like to respond in a way because I know other people are going to read the comments. So
Hmm.
I always try to educate, and I'm not really because I know the person that I'm responding to most likely isn't going to be changeable, but the people reading the comments might be like, "Oh, okay," you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
personally don't read comments. Like
Hmm.
I don't go on people's feeds and read all that stuff, but my mom does. I know a ton of people that do. So I'm just
Did you
like,
hear what they said about you, Jenny?
yeah, I'm just like,
I
no,
did.
actually, I don't really care. I try not to read that stuff for my mental health.
Yeah.
But, I always try to be kind and I don't want to turn people off. So that's kind of why I respond that way. Always trying to educate. That's my place, I think.
Yeah.
There is nothing like the rich, buttery taste of American Wagyu. But it's not just the delicious taste that American Wagyu cattle are known for. It's also their healthy fat profile. They're not like the Japanese Wagyu cows that are all fat and very little meat. American Wagyu cows are known for having more meat than their Japanese counterparts, but the extra fat content makes the flavor of the meat so much better. And if you're following carnivore or a low-carb lifestyle, you'll know that animal fats are integral for human health. I get my American Wagyu from Ozark Valley Beef in Edgar Springs, Missouri. Their cattle are ethically raised and live happy, healthy lives in the Ozark Valley region. These cows are all born, raised, and slaughtered within that same area of Missouri. And they are raised without antibiotics and live the bulk of their lives on pasture. Ozark Valley Wagyu's ground beef is to die for, but they also have amazing ribeyes, sirloins, chuck roasts, and so much more. If you'd like to try out any of Ozark Valley Wagyu's products, you can head to the link in the show notes and use code Jenny15 to get 15% off your order. And if after trying this beef, you're like, oh my God, I'm obsessed, and you want to keep ordering it, you can continue to use my code Jenny15 to save 15% every single time you order. Head to the link in the show notes to try this buttery, delicious American Wagyu steak today.
And being the you mentioned some things, topics, but being the self-proclaimed data junkie, N equals one experiments, blood work, what are some significant trends you have observed with carnivore, like either yourself or around you?
Yeah, I do tons of N01 experiments. I'm trying to gear up for a next one coming up soon. Interesting stuff. So I follow Dave Feldman's work pretty closely with the lean mass hyperresponders. So that's been really interesting to see. A lot of people think that if you go carnivore, that your LDL cholesterol is just automatically going to shoot up really high. And that's
Hmm.
actually not true. LDL numbers tend to track with your BMI. So people that are overweight or normal weight tend to see their LDL cholesterol stay the same or even go down on carnivore in the beginning. But as you continue to lose weight, become more physically active and all that kind of stuff, you can see where your LDL will go up super, super high. But that's just a small group of people that are lean mass hyperresponders. I've actually seen in my data, my LDL cholesterol is typically between 175 to, I don't know, 275, but my triglycerides are like between 30 and 60. My HDL is between 70 and 100, and that would be the lean mass
Yeah.
hyperresponder triad. But also in the N of 1 experiments, I've been able to manipulate my cholesterol numbers drastically just with the food that I eat. So I did an experiment where I ate really, really, really high fat carnivore and very high calorie for 3 days before a standard lipid panel. And I was able to drop my LDL cholesterol by 23%. And if you're going to, yeah, exactly. If you're going to,
If a pill could have done that, people would be buying that off the
yeah.
shelves.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing is we're all told like, oh, saturated fat is going to raise your LDL cholesterol. And it's simply not true.
Hmm.
It does the opposite. Very, very interesting stuff. I measure my blood once or twice a month with all these different experiments. I just did 14-day carnivore bar experiment where I just ate carnivore bars for 14 days. I just did a 14-day sardine fast experiment. Same thing, just ate sardines. So yeah, lots of fun data there. I just want to show people like, hey, there's ways that you can manipulate your lipids, your glucose, and I think being really cued into your numbers is important. I don't think anybody needs to test as much as I do. I'm a crazy person. I'm doing this for fun and for science and for YouTube. You know, if I wasn't doing this for YouTube, I'd probably get my blood work checked every 6 months now, knowing what I know now, just because everything's so fluid. People think they get a lipid panel and their triglycerides are just, you know, whatever they are for the whole rest of the year. And no, they're constantly moving. And you need to see what your range is. You know, if my triglycerides go from 37 to 70, I'm not like, oh my God, my triglycerides went up. That's within the range that I see in my blood work. You know, I would be concerned if my triglycerides went up to like 150. Then I'd be like, oh, okay, something that's a little different, you know?
Yeah. You know, it's also this goalpost, right? Like the goalpost will continuously move, you know, what as like on the doctor's charts, right? And wherever that they put that goalpost, if you don't hit the goalpost, then it's like, oh, you're doing something wrong. Like we have to give you statin. You know, they even tried to give me a statin. I was in the midst of, I was in the midst of Ironman training, probably arguably the best shape I've ever been in my life. And they're like, yeah, your cholesterol's a little high. We should get you on a statin. I'm like, no. I'm like, just because your goalpost is here on your piece of paper, like it doesn't mean really anything. Like you're saying, it could go down next week for me. It can go up more. But let's break apart. Like I feel great. I'm performing well. Right. I have function in my body. Everything's working the right way. What do I care if that, you know, my number hits your goalpost or not? So
right. Well, and the goalpost at a conventional doctor for LDL cholesterol has been continuously lowered so that they can get more and more people on statins. That's not actually accurate. And LDL cholesterol is a terrible, terrible biomarker to base health-related decisions on. I would be more concerned about what's your fasting insulin, fasting glucose, A1C, triglycerides, and HDL. That's what I'd want to know. I don't even care what your LDL cholesterol is. And granted, I'm not a doctor. This is just from what I've learned from low-carb carnivore doctors in the space. But I can take a look at those 5 markers right there and tell you the state of your metabolic health quickly, you know? And that's like, I don't know, maybe $35 to $40 worth of blood tests. It's not that much. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like the world is kind of waking up to the fact that LDL cholesterol is not a great biomarker and that it really is just used to put people on drugs.
Yeah. And the question is usually like just the things that you just said, rattle off your head, right? Those like 5 markers or whatever they may be. The person that did mine, like I could tell she was reading off a list and goes, okay, all right. Do you want a flu shot today? And I'm like, no. Okay. All right. See you later. Didn't ask me about my diet. Didn't ask me about my activity level, my sleep, my stress, nothing.
They're not trained to know anything about that. So it's not necessarily the fault of the conventional doctor or the nurse or things. They're not trained anything about nutrition. And what they are trained is not good. You know, I think that it's like 60% of your daily calories coming from carbohydrates. That's insane. That's insane. Even if they're fruits and vegetables. So yeah, I don't go to the doctor for prevention or nutrition advice or anything like that. I go to the doctor if I'm really sick and I need some antibiotics, or if I break a leg, or if I need a C-section. You know what I mean? I think that's probably the best, the decision I've made for myself.
You know? What the hospital is designed for, basically.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, I do think we need a complete shift in our medical schools, in our healthcare system. But right now, the entire healthcare system is literally built on prescribing medications, treating symptoms, not addressing root causes. And nutrition is a very low-hanging fruit that will take care of about 80% of whatever the heck is wrong with you. If you eat the right foods, it really does kind of strip away all of that extra stuff. And then you can really start to see what the root causes are. It's not going to solve everything. Carnivore is not a magic bullet, but it will really help you get to where you need to be. Like I still have Hashimoto's hypothyroid, even though I'm carnivore, but being carnivore, it's much, 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 better than it would be if I was eating a standard American diet, you know? So yeah, there's some profound shifts that need to happen in our healthcare system. I don't know if and when that would ever happen because it would have to be completely redesigned.
I mean,
But
isn't that,
I'm hopeful.
Kennedy is taking
Maybe.
taking,
Yeah, but he can't do everything.
Can't
He
do
can't solve
everything,
everything.
but he's front running it.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm glad that he got confirmed, interested to see what he can get done, but he's only one person.
Right.
And there's a lot of bureaucracy and he can't solve every ill. This is something that we have to work on as a society too,
Yeah, it takes everybody. And I think just looking at, 70% of Americans are either pre or type 2 diabetic. That's when 100 years ago, you had to like travel to find somebody that was that, they used to be the childhood disease.
Like dialysis clinics, there used to be one in every state and now there's 3 in every city.
Right.
Like, what's changed? Well, our food.
Absolutely.
Mostly, environmental stuff, pollutants, microplastics, bromide in everything, it's really interesting. And it's just so funny because type 2 diabetes, you can completely go into remission from it. It is a curable. It is not a life sentence. Yet so many people don't know that. They just think it's just, what they have to have for the rest of their lives. And with the advice from the American Diabetes Association, they will have it for the rest of their lives. Eating oatmeal for breakfast. Get out of here.
Oh, oatmeal and orange juice is isn't that the recommendation? Oatmeal and orange juice in the morning?
Or have apple strudel for your dessert with your, high carb dinner. Like no desserts for you if you're type 2 diabetic.
Well, if you need to manage your, blood glucose, you have a pump. Well, if we're going to be using the pump and needing insulin more and more and more, it makes sense if they're going to, the more high carbohydrate, foods that they recommend, the more you're using the pumps. It's
well, and the American Diabetes Association is heavily funded by insulin manufacturers.
Yeah.
So of course they're going to tell you to eat foods that make you need more insulin, but that's not doing a service to humanity. That's just killing people slowly and horribly. It's terrible.
Yeah, there's this another flip side of the coin of people pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic is you don't necessarily even have to be overweight. Like people make the assumption like, they're just lazy and they don't exercise and they eat bad. Well, there's athletes out there, and if I get the documentary correct, Running on Fat 2. I love this documentary. I watched it twice, but I can't remember the person's name in it, so shame on me. But Running on Fat 2 is the documentary, and they follow 2 like ketogenic athletes, fat adapted athletes that were, Ironman racers and endurance racers from beforehand, but they would follow the conventional high carbo load. And these people were arguably like the most in shape people you've ever met in your life. And one guy goes to the doctor, the husband, and they're like, yeah, you're pre-diabetic. He's like, what? He's like, I'm a top tier athlete. How am I? He's like, well, you've been just slamming glucose and gels and carbohydrates for all these years. Like your pancreas can only handle so much. So it's not like you have to be overweight. It's it's the food in the quantities that we're having it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the human body, regardless of your muscle size or weight or anything like that, we can only handle about a teaspoon of sugar in our bloodstream at any time. Now, if you have a lot of muscle, that is a good glucose sink. It's better to have more muscle because your body can then put the glucose in those muscles. But if you are constantly, like a lot of athletes do, like you said, carb loading, you're overwhelming your system. So you can be skinny fat. That is a thing. Skinny on the outside, fat on the inside, with like tons of visceral fat, which you wouldn't know unless you get a DEXA scan. It's profound. It's profound. You can look great on the outside and be so sick. Mm-hmm. And on the flip, you could be really obese, but metabolically healthy on the inside.
Yeah.
Perhaps because you might have something where you haven't met your personal fat threshold. Maybe your fat cells fill up really easily or things like that. That is a thing too. So
Yeah.
we can't judge a book by its cover. I think that's why it's so important to take a look on the inside with blood work, DEXA scans, and all that kind of stuff periodically, just to
Yeah.
make sure everything's, working the way it should under the hood. I am happy to announce that my new book, Complete Carnivore, is now available for pre-order. Complete Carnivore is an in-depth guide to the carnivore diet along with 80 plus carnivore recipes. And they're not just like cooking meat recipes. There's recipes for carnivores at any stage of their journey, and it definitely helps you mix it up a little bit if you're getting bored on the carnivore diet. When I was writing this book, I was really aiming to make this like the encyclopedia of the carnivore diet, and I am super excited for you to read it. Pre-sales are a huge deal for any first-time author, so if you'd like to show your support for me in any way, please consider pre-ordering this book. I will put the links in the show notes. Amazon and Barnes & Noble both have really good pre-order deals, where you will get the lowest price the book ever was from the time that you pre-order it to the time it's released. So let's say, for example, Amazon has a flash sale on my book, and you've already pre-ordered it, but then it goes down in price to like $20. Well, on release day, you will pay that $20 lowest price because you had already pre-ordered the book. Also, the book typically ships on release day, so you get it right away. Let's get this book onto every bookstore shelf in America and share the healing power of the carnivore diet with the world. Pre-order links are in the show notes, and I thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it.
And speaking of athletes, strength training.
Yes.
If I get you on the podcast, we're definitely going to be talking about this. I saw some clips of you doing some strength training. What's the regimen? Are we talking push pull legs?
So I do 3 to 4 days a week of strength training. I lift heavy. I'm typically doing legs and arms. Sometimes I'll do push pull, but typically just legs one day, arms one day. I don't have a ton of time, unfortunately. So I just try to get in and be as efficient as possible. I like to do 3 sets of anywhere between, 8 to 14 reps. And I really like those last few. I want to like lift to failure. That's what I like to do. I walk a lot. I like to walk three or so miles per day. I like the Stairmaster machine. I do this glute routine thing. It's not just walking on it. And then I like to do sprints too. That's really fun. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. If I had it my way, I'd be at the gym like 5 days a week. And then when I'm there, I also do the steam room and or the sauna. I like to do that for at least 15 to 20 minutes to really kind of get some toxins out. And then my gym has a cold plunge. So I like to get in the cold plunge too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had Healing for Humanity. Lisa Wiedemann was sitting next to me and we were just talking about strength training. She's also in the camp of going to failure. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that going to failure is the best, and she like turns to me and she like flips over to a picture of her in a bathing suit. She goes, "This is what going to failure looks like."
She's hardcore, dude.
She's jacked. And I was like,
dude, she has
Right.
abs.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
She's amazing. I love Dr. Wiedemann. Yeah. It's not for everybody. I think it just depends on what you're trying to do. I'm trying to maximize the gains that I can get in the small amount of time that I have to work out. Because I'm doing this full-time YouTube channel. I do coaching. I've got the kids. I've got my husband. I need to like also take care of myself. You know, so it's just like trying to do that. But yeah, it's not for everybody for sure.
That's and there's differences too of that's more if you're going into failure and you're going reps, and like you're getting exhausted in those last few, you are gonna build muscle. Like that's hypertrophy. You're going to do that's more of the bodybuilder style versus a functional like strength training, which is its own thing, but that's not going to get you the big growth. Long-term strength, there's other ways to achieve that. But if you're like, I need to build muscle right now quick, then going to failure is going to be your option because that's the bodybuilding style. Just having ample recovery between the sessions is the big key.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how important the rest days are. They're just as important as the workout days because the muscle is built on the rest day. That's when it rebuilds itself. Yeah, I take resting very seriously.
Hardcore rester.
Very. Like I'm
Yeah.
crazy about my sleep and my stress and hydration, nutrition, and exercise. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's holistic. It's not just one thing. I think people can get overwhelmed when they start and try to do everything all at once. Like I've been doing this, God, some form of like I learned about nutrition and keto and all that stuff in like 2016, and then I started going down that rabbit hole. Really started working out a lot then too. So I'm almost 10 years into my nutrition and exercise journey.
Yeah.
So I think start somewhere if you're getting started and you don't understand what we're talking about at all. Just walking is enough to just
Yeah.
get off the couch and start walking. That's what I did the first year on carnivore was just walked. Because I
Yeah.
was the kids were still so little and I was dealing with some Hashimoto stuff and I was kind of tired. So, but that allowed me to lose, I think 35, 40 pounds the first year was carnivore and walking, you
Yeah.
know?
I think a combination of strength, movement, nutrition, recovery, you take all those things. Like that's why I even named my company podcast Primal Foundations. Those are the four things I think
Yeah.
that if you do, you're gonna feel better. You're gonna cover a lot of bases. And
Yeah.
plus walking, and I say this on the podcast all the time. I used to talk shit about walking.
I think a lot of people
I
do.
used to talk shit. However, as I've gotten a little bit older, because I was from marathons and I did big endurance races, and to me it's like I don't want to walk. Why am I going to walk for an hour when I get the same distance done in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Right, right, right.
But just being in that low zone two, being outside, getting the sun exposure,
Yeah.
that just in itself, and also if I'm banged up, I don't want to go run
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 miles when I'm banged up. I just walk, and I feel like it's actually helped my health drastically more because I'm able to recover more. I'm able to be in zone two for a long period of time. I'm not taxing my body, and
Yeah.
therefore my strength gains go up. My sleep is better. So I used to be anti-walker. Now I'm like, I get my mom is walking every day. I'm doing walks. So I think that's a great step to start in the
Yeah,
right direction.
walking, it's just so low impact.
Yeah.
I'm old. I'm gonna be 41, old to me.
You ain't
I don't
old.
feel
You ain't
old
old.
though. I know, but you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
different than when you're 20 than when you're 40. There is a difference.
Hmm.
And walking, on my walks, I write scripts for my YouTube videos. I answer emails. I brainstorm. We have a nice little pond right over here. I do like a mile loop and I get like look at the birds and shit. I love it. It's so nice. It's calming.
I look at the birds and
I
shit.
look at the
It's
birds and
it's great.
shit. I do. We have some really cool birds over here, some sandhill cranes and some geese and some ducks. We got some cool birds. So
That's cool. Eh, and talking about cool things that you thought about, upcoming book,
yeah,
Complete Carnivore,
yeah,
offers recipes, detailed guidance on, how to do the carnivore diet. And can you share some unique features of the book and then,
yeah.
how it caters to both newcomers and seasoned carnivores?
Yeah, for sure. So Complete Carnivore, I envisioned it as like the full reference guide, like encyclopedia to carnivore. So whether you've been doing carnivore for years or you're just getting started or researching it, it's going to have something for you. So the whole first half of the book is like a complete in-depth guide to the carnivore diet, starter guide, how you can decide if you want to ease in or go cold turkey, meal plans, grocery lists, all that kind of stuff. Then it guides you through the first month, the first year, and then it goes into a bunch of other stuff. So troubleshooting. If you're running into certain issues on carnivore, you can go to that chapter and find the issue, and it will give you action steps that you can take to take care of it. FAQs. I mean, having the YouTube channel has been really helpful for that because I get the same questions over and over and over. So I just distilled that and put that into that chapter. Myths, we all encounter the myths like, oh, LDL cholesterol will cause heart disease, or like eating red meat is bad for the kidneys, things like that, addressing all of that stuff. And then I think one of my favorite chapters is the monitoring your progress chapter, where I go into how you can order your own blood work online, where you can get DEXA scans, ketones and how to monitor them, what to optimal functional ranges for all of these numbers, and how you can set up your own N of 1 experiments. So that's like the whole first half of the book which is its own book in and of itself, honestly. I basically wrote 2 books in one. The second half is 80 plus carnivore recipes. And it's not just like how to grill a steak, although that is in there. These are more recipes for like if you and me, if we get bored and we're like, I need something different. You can go through here and get something different that's still fully carnivore and throw that into your diet. So it's going to be really helpful for a lot of people. I just kind of wanted it to be something you could put on your shelf and pull it out whenever you had a question, whenever you needed a new recipe, or, you know, whatever you needed it for. So yeah, I've worked a lot on it. It's very hard to write a book. I didn't think it would be easy, but like, it was a lot just because I was also still doing the YouTube channel. So I create 6 to 12 videos per month, long form, then the short form as well, and the coaching and all that stuff, then also writing a book. My husband hated me. He was like, you work from dawn until we go to bed, blah. I'm like, I gotta get it done. What am I gonna do? It's, you know, but man, I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
That sounds awesome. I feel like that's the one area of really tracking progress for me. I do have like a very intuitive scale that gives me a laundry list of like protein in body. It gives me, you know, body fat composition. It gives me, you know, trends and stuff, which is great. But I don't dive into blood work, ketones, or anything like that. So I feel like this, I'm definitely pre-ordering. It's going to be, you know, go on Amazon, guys, pre-order. You can already do it.
Yeah, Amazon and Barnes & Noble both have really good pre-order deals where whenever you pre-order it until the date of release, you're going to get the lowest price that it ever is during that period of time. So let's say on Amazon, they have a flash sale. It goes on sale for like $20, but you had already pre-ordered it. On release day, you get it for that price.
Yeah.
And they don't charge you until release day. And then typically you get it on release day too, which is pretty cool. It just
they already send it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. So Amazon and Barnes & Noble both have that kind of deal. And then I have a link to Target. And then for international viewers, of course, you can use your own Amazon too. But I have one that's for international viewers as well.
Yeah. Send me the link. I'll put it in the show notes. And then, you know, I always give people this very loaded question, but you're no different. You know, with the book release on the horizon and everything like that, what are the next projects? You know, what do you have in mind for, you know, future carnivore-esque or the carnivore community? Yeah.
So this year it's going to be really conference heavy. Ooh. So I just spoke at my first conference, the Collaborative Science Conference in Vegas, last weekend. Dave Feldman's conference. That was awesome. It was my first time speaking at a conference. I've done a lot of public speaking in other areas. But in May is Meat Stock. So that's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. That's like every single carnivore doctor and influencer on the planet is going to be there. I'm really excited for that one. And then the book comes out in the fall. So it just depends. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of like interviews and tours and things for that. I have no idea yet. We'll see what happens, but that's going to be pretty much eating up most of my time the last quarter of the year. So that's kind of what's going on. As far as what the future holds, I'm definitely doing carnivore for this year. We're thinking about, well, we really need to buy a house, but it's just like, when is that going to happen? Lots of travel and just trying to stay consistent with the workouts. That's kind of what I have on my plate for this year. Trying to keep it pretty simple because I have so many work-related things going on that, you know, could be crazy, that I just want to keep my health up as much as possible.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks for coming on. I'm going to put your links, YouTube, Instagram, and all your information in the show notes. And I appreciate all that you do because those videos do take a long time. And I think if I were to go back and, you know, because this is my 5th year on carnivore, I would have loved to have something else, an additional of a starter guide, you know. I had Sean Baker's Rogan episode. That's pretty much it. And I just went off from there. But I appreciate all you do and for the community and taking the time to do these things. It's not an easy task.
No, it's not. And basically, I just didn't want people to suffer like I did in the beginning. So that's why I created all these videos. And I hope that they help people at least avoid some of the pitfalls that I went through.
Yeah. Well, I hope all the listeners go check out the links, and thanks for everybody listening to another episode of the Primal Foundations podcast.